Well, greetings, friends. We continue this experiment, beginning to move into the deepest and the most complex aspect of what the Tibetan master calls glamour. And just to remind ourselves that under his definition, glamour includes Maya, glamour, which we've been working on, and illusion. And as we've been working through the techniques, that using the technique of light, we've come to the point of beginning to investigate, to explore the technique of indifference. During our time together, we're going to set up what we hope will become more of a dialogue, where after we read a slide, we'll pause for 1 minute and then invite comments and thoughts that can be shared in the audio or in the chat box. Questions can arise. And then pause after each sharing to listen and integrate before responding to the idea expressed. We'll close no later than 55 minutes after the hour so that those who wish to attend other events may do so. So let's go backwards in the slides. So before we begin, let us, as is our practice, to align as soul. And then extend your alignment from that highest point of soul light along a line to the heart center of the group. And experience the radiance of the group soul as we invite those from the other side of the veil and those who will join us in listening to this recording to create the triple light of the mind, the merging and blending of brain and mind, the light of matter and the light of mind with soul light. And let us see our group approaching Master Dwell Cool's study. Let's sound the protective formula using the sign of the cross of divinity. Touching the forehead, as the soul we work in light. Touching the center of the chest. And darkness cannot touch us. The left eye, manas. We take our stand within the light. We work. The right eye, buddhi. And from that point, we never move. Let's always keep in mind what Master Dwell Cool instructs when he sounds this warning, that all development proceeds not in ordered actions and sections. It proceeds as proceeds the greater system, with constant overlapping and with parallelism. Due to the inherent ray of the spirit or monad, to cyclic changes, to diversity of forces playing astrologically, and often from unknown cosmic centers upon the palpitating life within the atoms. We pause to consider individual and group development and the factors that are at play. So in that pause, were you able to identify for yourself and for the groups that you're engaged in and with and serving a primary factor that may be influencing the group at this time? As we begin our exploration of divine indifference in this contemplative manner, relating it to our study of illusion and to the technique of indifference. And as we continue, we'll use the dialogue technique, which is to read the ideas and then take a minute to attempt to absorb as best we can that notion, that idea that's expressed in the Ageless Wisdom teaching, and then offer, after that silence, any of our own ideas and interpretations, pausing always to listen before responding in any way. Heike.
What is this technique? What is indifference? I wonder if you understand the significance of the word indifference. It means in reality the achieving of a neutral attitude toward that which is regarded as the not self. It involves a repudiation of similarity. It marks the recognition of a basic distinction. It signifies refusal to be identified with anything save the spiritual reality, as far as that is sensed and known at any given point in time and space. It is therefore a much stronger and vital thing than what is usually meant when the word is used. It is active repudiation without any concentration upon that which is repudiated. That is a statement of moment and warrants your careful consideration.
In my thinking regarding this, one of the most challenging parts of the statement to really understand in my mind is this repudiation of similarity. Micah, would you continue, please?
It is concerned with the point of tension from which the observing disciple or aspirant is working. The point of tension becomes the emanating source of some type of energy, and this pours down into and through the etheric body without being in any way affected by Maya or by the concentration of diverse forces of which the etheric body is ever composed. Indifference, technically understood, signifies direct descent from there to here, without deviation or distortion. The manifesting entity, the disciple, stands steady and firm at this point of tension. And his first step is, therefore, to ascertain where that is, on what plane it is found, and what is the strength of the tension upon which he has to depend.
It just brings to mind standing at that midway point and at a place that is entirely apart from any astral influence. Neutral, that's the word that keeps coming that was mentioned before. And it's more than neutral. It is almost absence.
So let's refresh our understanding of what Maya is before we continue on. Andrea, would you read this, please?
Yes. Maya is not easy to define because it is related to the form-building activity of the planetary logos himself. However, a consideration of the analogy existing between the microcosm and the macrocosm may help somewhat. The soul creates a threefold expression in the three worlds of human living. This is an occult truism. The outer form, the dual physical body, dense and vital or etheric, is produced, created, motivated, energized, and conditioned by certain energies and forces emanating from those levels whereon the soul has, rightly or wrongly, engineered a reaction of identification. Note that phrase, my brother. These make the human what he, she is. They give the person their temperament, profession, and quality upon the physical plane. They make the individual negative or positive to various types of impacting energy. They give the person their character and make them what they appear to be to others. They produce the individual's coloring, capacities, and personality. With all of these, the average person identifies the self. They believe the self to be the form, the medium through which they attempt to express their desires and ideas. This complete identification with the transient creation and with the outer appearance is Maya. It must be remembered that individual Maya is a fractional part of the world of energies and forces which constitute the life expression of the planetary logos, which condition our outer planetary life and make our planet what it appears to be to the other planets.
We might ask ourselves, what is our point of identification?
And how we identify with everything and all.
So in this process that we are all engaged in, moving from identification with the personality, with our family, with our group, community, nation, what are we doing in relation to becoming aware of and then identifying as the soul? So as one endeavors to consider an idea that is sensed through an impression, Master Dwalkul says a step is to discover that which one seeks to convey to the physical body, and thus produce effects upon the outer world of experiment and experience. If it is distorted by illusion of any kind, if it is arrested in its expression by glamour, or liable to be sidetracked by uncontrolled forces and by the Maya which these produce. This we can ascertain not by identifying the self stage by stage of descent with the hindrances and possible obstructions, but by intensifying our point of tension by the constant recollection of the truth that we know as the self or ego soul, and not the not self, the personality, and not by a process of projection or through a process of projection. This projection is defined as sending of energy qualified and recognized from the point of tension, direct and undeviatingly to the vital body, from whence it can find its way to the 7 centers of control. So this implies a direct connection to the spiritual will and intensifying that point of tension, constantly recollecting the truth of the soul, and then this projection, sending of the energy that is qualified by the qualities of the soul and recognized as such from that highest point of tension, directly and undeviatingly to the vital body and the 7 centers of control. So these 3 statements, which when I read these seemed in the wrong order, but they are in this order, as summing up the story of the eventual release of the disciple from the great illusion. First, as the soul working through the higher triangle, which is the personality, soul, and monad, becoming the directing agent, and illusion is dispelled, and the mind becomes illumined. Secondly, as the personality, under the growing influence of the soul, works through the second triangle, soul, mind, and brain, where glamour is dissipated and the control of the astral nature is broken. And thirdly, as the disciple working as the soul and as an integrated personality, assumes direction of his or her life expression, Maya, or the world of etheric energies, becomes devitalized, and only those forces and energies are employed which serve the need of the disciple or the initiate, as the disciple or initiate fulfills divine intent. So in absorbing these, for me came the realization of this being the actual order in which the progression of development unfolds.
Something about this just keeps recognizing the will to love.
That certainly relates directly to fulfilling divine intent. Ben, would you read for us, please?
Over time, with practice and through experience, the disciple learns eventually to know himself to be, above everything else, whilst in incarnation, the director of forces. These he directs from the altitude of the divine observer and through the attainment of detachment. These are things which I have oft told you before. These truths are for you only the platitudes of occultism, and yet, if you could but grasp the full significance of detachment and stand serene as the observing director, there would be no more wasted motion, no more mistaken moves, and no more false interpretations. No wandering down the bypaths of daily living, no seeking others through distorted and prejudiced vision, and above all, no more misuse of force.
Heike.
All human beings live and move and express themselves in and through that same world of ever moving, ever impacting, outgoing and incoming energies. The occultist, however, works there. He becomes a conscious directing agent. He creates upon the physical plane that which he desires. And that which which he desires is the pattern of things and the design laid out upon the terrestrial board of the spiritual consciousness by the great divine architect. Yet he identifies himself not with the pattern or with the forces which he employs. He moves in the world of Maya, free from all illusion, unhindered by glamour, and uncontrolled by the Mayavic forces. He is rapidly arriving, as far as his own little world is concerned, at the same divine indifference which characterizes Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world. Therefore, increasingly he becomes aware of the plan as it exists in the universal mind, and the purpose which motivates the will of God.
It is this divine indifference which is responsible for the fact that in attempting to describe pure being or God, and in the effort to arrive at some understanding of the nature of divinity, the formula of negation has been evolved. God is not this, God is not that, God is no thing, God is neither time nor space, God is not feeling or thought, God is not form or substance, God simply is. God is, apart from all expression and manifestation, as the manipulator of energy, the creator of the tangible and the intangible worlds, the pervader of life, or the indweller in all forms. God is the one who can withdraw, and in withdrawing, dispel, dissipate, and devitalize all that has been created, using those words in their fullest significance. When Michael Robbins developed his series on Identify as Being, this was essentially one of the primary elements, the fundamentals that he grounded that series in. The achievement of absolute divine indifference and identification with that being. Andrea.
The act of abstraction produces the dispelling of the illusory world of thought. The withdrawal of the divine attention dissipates the sentient universe and brings glamour to an end. The cessation of divine direction brings death to the physical world. All these activities are evidences of the will, or the first aspect, the will to good, which can and will function in perfection only when goodwill is finally and fully developed on earth through the agency of humanity. The will and the breath are occultly synonymous terms.
In Glamour World Problem, there's a little outline that Master TK gives as he approaches the topic of the divine indifference or the technique of indifference. And the first section is about the etheric plane, the world of forces. The second, the science of the breath and the relation of the will and the breath. And this as inspiration. This is done before he goes on to the technique of indifference through concentration and detachment. He says the only factor which makes the breath effective is the thought, the intent, and the purpose which lie behind it. And he goes on to say in this statement, you have the clue to dynamic, useful breathing exercises, unless there is a clear appreciation of purpose, unless the disciple knows just what he or she is doing as they practice esoteric breathing, and unless the significance of the words energy follows thought is understood. Breathing exercises are a sheer waste of time and can be dangerous. From this, it can be gathered that only when there is an alliance between breathing and thinking will results be possible. I wonder how many working in group formation recognize the cycles as in-breathing, inhalation, and exhalation in our thought relating to alignment with the hierarchy, with the higher purposes, and how this science of the cycles and the breathing, inhaling and exhaling the thoughts related to the cycle, and how that allows us to develop a greater sense of detachment and eventually indifference. He goes on to say, behind this lies a third and even more important factor, the will. Therefore, the only person who can safely and usefully practice breathing exercises is one whose will is active, spiritual will, and therefore the will of the spiritual triad. Any disciple who is in the process of building the Antakarana, that great channel from the mental unit to the monastic permanent atom, any disciple in the process of building that channel can begin to use with care directed breathing exercises. And reminding us regarding the focused immovable will, the thought of tension, which Master DK defines as the identification of the brain and soul with the will aspect, and the preservation of that identification, unchanged and immovable in all circumstances and difficulties. The will aspect can be contacted only from the mental plane, and only those, therefore, who are working with and through the mind can begin to appropriate this energy. It is the will that, in the last analysis, produces orientation, focus, emphasis, the world of form, and above all else, because of its relation to the world of cause, the world of meaning. The group life as a whole is needed to make possible a somewhat new attitude, this shift in realization away from form and consciousness to the will and life aspect or principle. So we're closing at this point today, and for 2 minutes following the ending of the recording, we'll discuss how we should move forward with this particular immersion into a dialogue regarding our contemplation of illusion and beginning to move towards using the technique of indifference. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. Gratitude.